and welcome and greetings to everyone. Today is really a special celebration, and I'm so glad that all of you could take part. And just some of you who were on the call earlier would know that it is such a special celebration today to recognize Henry that I actually put on a tie and a coat for the first time since March, I don't know, something or another. And I had to look it up in my Cub Scout handbook to figure out how to tie the darn thing, but it is a special occasion. We are so glad to have you with us today and join in this celebration. I'm going to be the MC for the ceremony. I'll share some background on Marty Baskerville, the award that bears his name, and I will call on program participants. Just so you know what to look forward to, you're going to hear from fellow Rotarians Brendan Denewall, Sharon Bloodworth, and Jeff Nelson, who is Henry's husband and of course a special friend of Minneapolis Rotary. But first, I'd like to introduce a few guests who are here with us today in honor of Henry's recognition. Now, these are ones that I'm aware of, and so we're gonna, when I get to the end of the list, if there are others who are here, I would ask you to unmute yourselves and introduce yourselves. So from the Edina Noon Club, we have Rich Klaber. He's a board member for the Africa Classroom Connection, which you're gonna hear more about later. We have Tammy Follett, the Executive Director of Literacy Matters, who serves as the current chair of the Africa Classroom Connection. And I would be remiss if I did not add who is a potential new member of the Minneapolis Rotary Club. We also will have Roy Goslin from the Fridley Rotary Club and a board member of the Africa Classroom Connection. And we have, you've met Terry and Susan Walkerstorfer, friends and participants, and who have a few photos you're going to see a little bit later too. So at this time, I'd like to ask if there are any guests who I did not introduce, who you could introduce yourselves, who are here for the celebration.
Mary Jo.
Robin Coquette.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Mona.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
This is Robin Coquette. I'm with Africa Classroom Connection. I'm a board member and will be starting shortly as the new executive director, longtime supporter and fan of Henry Brommelkamp.
Excellent. Anyone else?
I'm
Yes,
Mary Jo Stengel. I'm about a 10-year, 12-year friend of Henry and Jeff. I've been on the ACC trip 2 times, and I'm currently helping out with a little book work. And at the moment, Jeff and I are on a bit of a road trip.
Okay, welcome.
Moana, do you want to get in here quick?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'm Moana Nyirongo. I'm a friend to Henry Bromeka from Malawi. Henry has been supporting my education from my bachelor's, and now even I'm doing my master's degree in South Africa. And he has also been supporting several projects in Malawi, like bringing back to school some of the students who dropped out. So when I heard that there is this celebration, I thought I should join and recognize the role that has played in my life. Yes.
Thank you. We're so glad that you did. So
thank you so much.
We will now get into the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen here, and if all works according to plan, you should now see a Marty Baskerville Award screen on your screen. Is that the case? Could somebody tell me if that is the case? Thumbs up. Excellent. Well, we're going to get started. The first question that I think people might ask is, who was Marty Baskerville? And to answer that, a quick summary would be, he was simply an exceptional Rotarian, businessman, and community leader. Marty joined the Minneapolis Rotary Club in 1947, and he became the longest tenured member, achieving a 100% perfect attendance for the next 63 years, a record still unmatched. Now, I would point out back in those days, they didn't have the virtual option, so he might have had more competition if had that been the case, but still an amazing record. Marty attended the University of Minnesota, He served as a pilot in the U.S. Air Corps, and he joined Western Oil and Fuel Company in 1945, working his way to president in 1963. In 1971, he joined the Riverway Company. He became their CEO and chairman of the board in 1977, where he stayed until 2005. He passed away in 2010. Besides Rotary, Marty's passion was the YMCA, helping kids and young teens. He was instrumental in the creation of the Y Start, a program for at-risk middle school students, as well as supporting and facilitating summer camps for kids. Marty took on many leadership roles within our club, and perhaps his most lasting contribution was his help in the creation and growth of our Minneapolis Rotary Foundation. Marty followed his initial gift of $400,000 to establish a youth development fund within the foundation, and was very active in the charter member campaign through 1998 to 2000. Several members also made matching gifts to this fund, including a bequest of $500,000. The Rotary Foundation here in Minneapolis continues to grow, now with over $3.2 million in assets as of the last report. These funds help our club with international and local service projects, as well as educational scholarships and more. So that's Marty. So what's the award selection criteria? And you can read on the screen, but this is presented periodically, and it's to someone, a Minneapolis Rotarian, who has demonstrated over time a strong commitment to the service mission of Rotary through active leadership and participation in club and district 5950 philanthropic activities, and of course support to the Rotary Foundation of International and Minneapolis. Marty was selected as the first recipient of the award in 2005, and the award has been named for him ever since. And you will see here, this is our list of past recipients. For time, I am not going to read all the names, but I am going to do a shout out. I know that we have Cliff Anderson is on the call, one of our past recipients here today. Sharon is also on the call, but she is on the program a bit later. And these, as you can all imagine, are outstanding recipients and Rotarians, and we're so pleased to have them be members of our club. So, moving on, what about our 2020 recipient, Henry Brommelkamp? Why was Henry selected as the 2020 winner? Well, I'm going to give the executive summary, and then you're going to hear much more from the following speakers. But the quick overview is that Henry founded the Africa Classroom Connection, which has built numerous classrooms in Zululand, South Africa. He has also been involved in numerous other projects in Africa, including the Kalanga Bana Farm for street kids in Zambia, Latrine and Water for Homeless Shelter in Zambia, Books for Africa, also in Zambia. In addition, he has been an active member of our World Community Service Committee and our Rotary Foundation Board. You'll hear more about these projects from those who worked with Henry and traveled with him to make these projects a reality. And to kind of set the stage, I would just like to show a few slides here that Terry Walkerstorfer shared to kind of give you a sense of what the Africa Connection looks like and how Henry looks pretty darn happy in the project. And you can see those slides happening. So at this point in time, I am going to turn the program over to Brendan Denewell, who is a member of Minneapolis Rotary and the World Community Service Committee. He's also on the board of the Africa Classroom Connection and the co-chair of their Technology Committee and Donor Relations Committee. Brendan, it's back to you.
Thank you so much, Kent. And Henry, it's incredible to see you here today. When I was told that Henry was being nominated for the Marty Baskerville Award, I could not think of a more worthy recipient. I'll now share my screen and just share a few slides with you. So this is when I think of you, Henry. This is how I think of you. You're always so happy when you're surrounded by the kids that you've helped in KwaZulu-Natal, which just happens to be 2 hours from where I actually went to middle school, which I'll talk to a little bit more in a little bit. And this is how I think of Henry as a giving man who gets energy from helping others, which again is why I believe this award was essentially made for Henry. I met Henry 4 years ago at this very Rotary Club, and when he found out that I was originally from Southern Africa, and I found out that he had started Africa Classroom Connection, of course the conversation went pretty rapidly as soon as we could connect in between his travels. And he invited me to a board meeting at Africa Classroom Connection, where of course they were vetting me to see whether I would make a worthy board member, and of course to see whether I would be interested in the opportunity, which of course I jumped at. I've been a very happy part of that organization since then. Again, how I think about Henry, he's one of the people who most includes everything he does in his life every single day, whether it's his work, his philanthropy, his family, Jeff, Rotary, travel, and friends. Everything is completely intertwined with Henry's life every single day. And for example, how he combined Rotary and Africa Classroom Connection with his work at Brummel Camp and his travel. Whenever he was anywhere, he was trying to make connections for all of the above. A little bit more about Africa Classroom Connection. So since Henry founded ACC in 2006, in partnership with the Ashawe Community Action Group in KwaZulu-Natal, after meeting some Rotarians on a trip to South Africa, ACC has built 109 classrooms and have educated 37,000 kids through those 109 classrooms who otherwise would not have had an education because of the rural area that they live in, far from any other schools. And of course, no surprise, the #1 donor to African Classroom Connection is, of course, Henry himself. Again, the energy that Henry gets and how he incorporates all of these components in his life is again captured in one of these, one of thousands of pictures like this, where you see the happiness and energy that Henry gets from giving. So I'd like to wrap up what I'm going to say here with this picture once again, because I love it so much, of Henry Brummelkamp, a giving man, a worthy recipient. And I'm very honored to be a part of both Rotary and Africa Classroom Connection as a way to give back to the privileged middle school life that I had 2 hours from where all these kids would not have had an education were it not for what Henry has done. Thank you. And back to you, Kent.
Thank you so much, Brendan, for sharing that information and those connections. We'll now hear from Sharon Bloodworth, who is not only last year's Baskerville Award winner, but is also the chair of our World Community Service Committee. She will share with us Henry's role on the committee and some more rationale for why he's been chosen as this year's leader.
Oh, thank you very much. And let me just share my screen. There we go. Oop, let me just go over here. Great. Everyone can see that fine?
Yes.
Perfect. So I am really excited to talk to everyone today about Henry, especially because I was the recipient last year. I can tell you that it was a huge honor to receive this award. I frankly couldn't believe it. I was really surprised, and I still remember almost every one of Chip's words that he said about me during that, which I don't think anyone's ever been nicer. And I can tell you this, I feel almost like it's Miss America handing over the crown to the next one, because I've been boasting about this, all year. So I can say that, you know, Henry's in very good company with the other ones that have won it before. You know, handing over the crown is very, very difficult. um, so I first of all wanted to start and talk about Henry, about him being a fabulous Rotarian. He has made friends for us with many, many different clubs all around the world. This was his first picture right as he joined Rotary, but he was being presented in, I think it was Rotary, St. Paul Sunrise Rotary. And when he landed in Rotary, I think he landed with a big boom. You can see here, this was another photo of him where he'd commented on Facebook that he was on his way to our building and passed a homeless guy that had said, anything helps, and told him how great his tie was. And so there wasn't a moment that Henry wasn't promoting Rotary and everything that we can do within it. And I like this photo of him that he went and visited Washington D.C.'s Rotary and took the photo of that. And you'd expect Henry to do that. But what makes him different is that perhaps if I'd have gone to this meeting, I would have taken that same photo and of the experience. However, this is the photo that followed that Henry had, where he's literally out with everybody else afterwards. So he makes fast friends wherever he's been. And been a really great Rotarian. When I went back and I looked at all of the emails that Henry had emailed me over the years, it wasn't just the sort of the African classrooms. It was 5 other organizations that he was also supporting and promoting as well. And so he was an incredible, he is an incredible connector. So then when Henry arrived at our committee, so he joined the club and joined our committee pretty shortly afterwards, we had an instant bond because I had been brought up in Zaire in the Congo. And so we became fast friends with our Africa connection. And at our committee, as most of you know, is that, you know, we give money from our foundation, and then our Rotary district matches that, and then Rotary International matches that again. So generally when we give $10,000, it turns into $35,000 in end giving. Well, one of the things that Rotary doesn't do is they don't pay for buildings. And the rationale there is that they worry about sort of who owns the building or the land afterwards. And so they like to fill the buildings with things, but not actually build them. And Henry's interest was in building. And so he came to our committee and fit right in and said, well, I understand there's no leverage in what I can do. However, if I go out and find other donors and other friends where I'll make the match exactly the same as we would have had during this committee, will you support that? And we all said eagerly yes, and off he went. And every time he went off, he more than matched it. And the projects that he'd worked on had brought together Rotarians around the world, Rotarians around the country, as well as our club, and donors that he has in his life that are friends as well. So an amazing connector, and just really a mover and shaker. When he's on our committee, always smiling, always willing to help with everything, and he was just dynamic force in our committee, and in our club as well. When I was searching for photos to use today, what I found is when you look at our Rotary website with all of our sort of thousands of photos that Beth Grosen had taken, if you do statistics on who shows up most often, it's actually Henry. I had lots to do, which means that he was going to the Brutarians. He was a very, very involved person as well. And I think it's also his magnificent smile that gets him there as well. When I think the project that he was most proud of were the classrooms in Africa. This is my very favorite photo of him there, and I don't know whose smile is bigger and whose smile is more wonderful. But these, and you'll probably sort of see them a little later, but there are some of the schools that have been built there, and it went far beyond what our Rotary Club did. And so Rotary was just the tip of the iceberg in where Henry gives and the impact that he's made around the world. But it's the one that sort of that we can connect to most easily. I also wanted to sort of say a big thanks to Jeff, his husband as well. Jeff has been I don't think Henry could be who he was if it wasn't for Jeff in his life. Many of you may have not known, but at the time that Jeff was supporting Henry through his terrible accident, Jeff's mother was also declining from Alzheimer's, then passed away sort of very short, a short time ago. And so if you imagine the tremendous pressure that Jeff has been under during this time, yeah, I think that our greatest wish in the world is that we could all have a Jeff, and maybe if we all had a Jeff, we'd be Henry as well. So he's been a terrific support and partner in keeping everybody connected. So I really want to say a big thank you to Jeff as well. And then lastly, I think I just wanted to leave you with the final picture of Henry. And it's one of my favorite because it's probably one of the, he's relaxed and happy, which is always his natural state. When I was given this award last year, in my head, I always thought, gosh, I know that Henry will have it one day, because I can tell you in all honesty, he is the closest thing that I know to Mother Teresa. Truly. And he's our friend, and he's in our Rotary Club, and we get to celebrate him today, and for that I will be eternally grateful, and encourage you to visit when we can go and visit again as much as possible. So a big thanks to you, Henry. I'm proud to call you my friend, and so proud of everything you've done.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing that information. And I'd like to now introduce Jeff, and I second everything that Sharon said about Jeff, and a great friend of our club. He is here to accept the award on behalf of Henry, and Henry can observe, but Jeff gets to actually accept the award thanks to the magic of Federal Express. Jeff is not physically in the state, but is accepting the award wherever he is. Colorado, is it, Jeff? Anyway, you are now up, and we've twisted your arm to say a few words as well. So if you have the award, share it. If not, just jump into the presentation of your remarks.
Thank you so much, Kent. I was actually waiting for Sharon to pass this over to me. I carried it with me from Minneapolis to Colorado, where I'm staying with my brother. And we thank you very much for this wonderful award. So thank you, Kent. Thank you, Sharon. On behalf of Henry, I want to thank all the members of Club 9 for this honor. It's something that Henry will really cherish, I know, for a very long time. Others have already shared with you many of the stories about Henry's philanthropic activities. Rotary, Africa Classroom Connection, he's been involved in St. Stephen's Human Services, CARE, and many more. But I want to share with you a few stories about Henry on more on a personal note. First, while it took quite a few Rotarians quite some time to get Henry to join Rotary, I know that once he did, he's really enjoyed it. He enjoys the camaraderie. He appreciates the sage business advice that people have shared with him. And he really obviously approves of its charitable mission. Second, and I'm sort of repeating something that Brendan talked about, Henry is really a true giver. And it goes well beyond some of the causes that we've mentioned already. He's personally supported the educations of many people, including Mona, who's on the call today, as well as a few other students from Africa, learners we call them. He's also tried to share with others some of his great experiences. And I thought that Brendan's little circle was great because it really showed so many different aspects of Henry. And I'll share a really kind of a funny story about that. So Henry and I got married 6 years ago. And for our wedding, we don't need anything. We didn't need gifts or anything. But Henry said, he came up with the idea of, people are still going to want to give us something. So let's create a fund so that those that are unable to join us for our big celebration can travel to Minnesota. And using all the contributions that were given to us, we were able to bring 2 people from ECAG, from Ishoa in South Africa, to come to the wedding, as well as Mona. Mona was there too. So South Africa and Malawi. Not only did they come to the wedding, but Henry likes to share everything. So he organized that our honeymoon would be a bus trip across the Western US. And so he hired a chartered bus, and we had 20 some people join us on our honeymoon, including 3 or 4 from Africa. I called it the Henry honeymoon. He didn't really like that so much, but it was a great adventure for so many people coming from around the world. Finally, I just wanted to share that with you because it gives you a little more insight about who Henry really is. Again, thank you very much for this wonderful award that when I return back to Minneapolis will be in Henry's hands. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We all appreciate your comments that you made and what you offer to our club and to our community. This award is a special recognition. We're so thrilled that Henry was able to be on the call with us and to see this all live and somewhat in person. One of the great things about Rotary is we say nice things about people when they're around and to still hear them. So that's a wonderful thing. Henry has done a tremendous amount in his life to this point, and going forward, the chapters are still being written. And we know with this type of a base and a foundation that those chapters will continue to go forward. So at this time, I would just like to share my screen one more time with a couple of closing thoughts here. And that would be another photo, I think, hopefully that you can see right now, is maybe a way to close the meeting, and a friendly wave from a classroom connection classroom. And then I would also like to share some contact information, because if you want to send a postcard, if you want to send a letter of congratulation, this information was all included in the last club e-newsletter. So you don't have to try to write it down or whatever on the screen, but it would be wonderful if we could all reach out to Henry in yet another way. He has a Caring Bridge site, and there's also a GoFundMe page. So pay attention to all of those things if you're interested. So in closing, congratulations, Henry. Thanks to all the program participants. And we are so glad that we're able to make this award presentation today. Thank you. We are officially closed for the program.